The First Shogun's General. Prologue. A Demon's Lament. POV. The demon general of the first shogun of Japan. It was just after my committing of seppuku, after my son betrayed me in Hirezumi of 1189. Grief clung to me like a second skin as I watched my homeland decay, my people twisted into shadows of what they once were. At first I was overjoyed that I had survived. I can still protect and guide my people. That was the first thought I had after realizing I was alive, and not dead. I immediately got up, and noticed it was night time, so I made sure to make haste back. However, before I had reached my home, I noticed a figure in the darkness with the sound of flesh being torn apart filling the silent night. I immediately went to investigate and to my horror saw the dead body of one of the local villagers, and some sort of monster was consuming the villager. I did the first thing that came to my mind, grabbed my katana, and beheaded the monster in one swift strike. I turned away from the monster to look at the villager, when my mind seemed to just put a thought into my head that looks delicious. I immediately recoiled in horror. Had that thought truly come from me? The thought that the corpse of another human being looked delicious terrified me slightly. Something was wrong. Hey you, that was my meal. You trying to steal my hard-earned kill, huh? The monster shouted at me as I looked back into the monster's eyes, and saw my reflection in them. I looked nothing like how I normally looked. My hair had turned into the purest of white and my once black eyes were now a violent crimson red with a slit pupil. What? I thought in horror as I witnessed my new appearance, and watched how the monster seemed to stare at me more before its eyes widened, and said, "Oh, I get it. You're a newborn demon, aren't you? Well, I won't let you have my kill that easily." Before the demon charged forward as I was in disbelief and shocked. Demon, I thought in horror as I realized that I had become what was considered a myth. I was snapped out of my frozen state when I saw the demon appear right in front of me as I reacted quickly and beheaded the demon once again, and watched how the demon's head grew hands and began to attack. Before I quickly cut its head in two and its body in half, I watched as its body started regenerating, and was shocked before the voice in my mind spoke once more, "Eat him." I was disgusted and physically recoiled as I even thought of that, but as I saw that the demon was regenerating and would keep doing so, I swallowed my humanity and hardened my heart as I prepared to eat demon until another thought came to my mind. Why not absorb it? I stopped in my tracks as that thought came to my mind, and I fought all urges that were telling me to eat the demon, and instead I walked forward and placed my right hand on the demon's head and focused, and to my astonishment, it worked. I quickly absorbed the head and all its other body parts, and felt myself grow stronger as I thought I feel stronger after absorbing that demon. Could it be that the more demons I absorb, the more powerful I will become? As that thought came to me, it quickly vanished, replaced by a new one. I'm a demon. I voiced out loud to no one but the air. The words tasted like ash with sorrow as its seasoning as I realized I could not return home as I would shame my family and friends. The thought that I could never return to the life that I once knew left me in despair. So, I left to another place where I came across another demon wondering about as before the demon noticed me, or could speak. I beheaded the new demon, then absorbed it, and continued on. My newfound purpose is to find whatever turned me into a demon, and kill it and look for a cure to this demonic illness. This is my mission. I am Minamoto no Yashitsune, and I am the demon general of the first shogun of Japan. Chapter 1. The Sound Hashira. POV. Temen. I was on my routine patrol as usual. As unlike the other Hashira who wait for missions to be handed out, I go on patrol near the HQ to search for demons. As I was treading the village path, I heard a demon approaching and prepared myself. POV. Yashitsune. I was wandering around after I absorbed an annoying demon who kept on talking about how he was the strongest demon ever before I quickly absorbed the weakling. As I was walking, I sensed a Hashira nearby and decided to go look. He was a white-haired man with a good physique and twin blades connected by a chain that was on his back. I decided to appear directly in front of him and see how strong he is. I immediately appeared directly in front of him as I saw his look of mild shock turn into calm determination as he unsheathed his blades to behead me. He was slow. I saw what he was going to do from the start as I appeared behind him and touched his left shoulder and said, "Is this all you have?" I saw the man's face turn into a deep frown as he was going to reply until a cry filled the night. "Help!" I saw the Hashira pause as he looked towards where the sound came from and saw that he was going to dash off. He did, and I followed. I could tell he knew I was following him as he said, "I won't let you hurt whoever is there, demon." I replied with seriousness, "I am following you because there should be no other demons here," as I absorbed them. The Hashira's face showed surprise and heard him ask, "Then if not a demon, that only leaves?" The realization dawned on his face, and I said, "Yes, another human is either attacking another human or stealing." However, By the sound of the voice it sounded like a woman's, which can only mean one thing. I saw the look on his face go blank as he sped up more. And as we arrived, it was indeed a woman being loomed over by a man as her kimono was torn up before I could move. Hashira moved, so I let him deal with this as I witnessed to my surprise he beheaded the human. Are you all right? I heard him say in a gentle and kind voice as I saw the woman look up at him and hug him. Hey, now it's okay. I got rid of this filth. It's okay. It's okay. I decided to approach them and saw the Hashira tense up before relaxing as I said, My lady, where do you live? Also, are you sure you're completely fine going home alone? Or would you like us to accompany you to your home so you felt secure? The Hashira looked at me with a hint of suspicion, but the woman looked at me and simply nodded her head, to which I smiled. All right then. Well then, come on. The longer we stay out here, the greater the chance someone else may see you in this state, my lady. The woman blushed and quickly pulled her torn kimono tighter as I chuckled and disappeared before reappearing with a cloak she can wear. I saw the woman's shock and the Hashira's surprise as I said, Relax. I didn't kill anyone for this, as I saw it in a shop and took it. I did leave money on the counter though, along with a note. Their disbelief was obvious and I sighed. Well, come on. Let's get going. I looked away as the woman put the cloak on as I followed, with the Hashira watching me as we walked in silence before reaching the woman's house as she bid farewell and said thanks as she went inside. I stood out there with the Hashira before I heard him say, I won't let you eat that dead human. I looked at him and said, I won't eat that dead human, though that dead human should be burned. I saw the Hashira's look of disbelief as I said, If you don't believe me, then just follow me back there. I saw his look of apprehension as I saw him nod as I disappeared and reappeared back at the spot, with the Hashira appearing a second later. Now you take the body, and I'll take the head. I saw him do that and I said, Follow? And I disappeared and reappeared in a clearing with the Hashira appearing a second later. Drop the body right there. He dropped it and I put the head on the chest as I said, Now I will go get firewood, you stay and make sure no one approaches us. I saw him nod as I disappeared, and a few minutes later I returned with firewood. Now that we have firewood, I'll light the fire. As I said this, I pulled out a piece of flint and steel from my yukata as I lit the wood on fire as we watched the body burn. I saw the Hashira's look and said, I stumbled across scenes like that many times over the years, as I just decided to start carrying a flint steel just in case I come across another one. I saw his confused look as I said, Confused why I didn't kill you or eat the dead an alive human. I watched him nod and heard him say, Yes, I am wondering why you didn't kill any of us, and this hurts my pride. You could have done so with ease. I simply smiled at him and said, I have never eaten a single human since I became a demon, and I have only ever absorbed demons. His shocked expression was amusing to me, so I chuckled, surprised. The last Hashira I met was surprised too, though that was back during the Edo period. Haha. That Sakanji was quite the stoic one. I watched his shock grow and heard him say, Sakanji, as in Yurakataki Sakanji, the former water Hashira? I nodded and said, Yes, the very same. I still remember that day. He was shocked beyond belief as I walked up to him and asked if he would like a drink. Haha. When he got drunk, he started complaining about how he had to take more missions since the lower ranks were becoming disappointments, and how because of that he couldn't train as much or enjoy his green tea. I smiled fondly at the memory and continued, After we had drank, we went our separate ways and kept meeting up once a month to talk, and shortly after we became good friends and still get together once a month to spend time with each other. The Hashira's expression of shock receded, and I heard him ask, If that's the case, then how come you have never been reported about to the corpse? I smiled and answered, Because I asked him no to, as while I may not eat humans, they would never accept me unless their master ordered them to. And I won't force that on your master. The surprise on his face only lasted a few moments before he smiled. Well, that's pretty flashy of you, so I, Yuzu Tengen, hereby will keep your secret. My eyes widened slightly. Yuzu, you're from the Yuzu clan? Yuzu's face immediately darkened. Yeah, I guess you must be centuries old if you know about my clan. I scoffed. No, I was around when they were first established. Oh, that was so many years ago. Yuzu's shocked face was quite amusing. If you were around when they were first established, then you're over 700 years old. Yuzu shouted. I sighed. Yes, I am over 700 years old. Confirming this, I saw his eyes widen more. That's before the very first breathing swordsmen were established. Yuzu said in slight awe. I sighed again. True. And back then you demon slayers were very few, but those few of you were powerful. In fact, if I had to rank you, you would be at Kanado level back then. His shocked look was becoming slightly tiresome for me, and heard him stutter. What? Sighing, I explained. While the techniques are lost, and so is the knowledge of its existence, I was around when they simply used sword techniques. These techniques were powerful though. They didn't last long, as only 100 years after I became a demon those techniques were lost, as the demon slayers back then were not as organized as today. In fact, before the era of breathing there was no real organization among them. The shocked look increased even more as I heard him say, "There were other techniques before breathing?" I simply nodded. Yes, there were many, so many techniques. The demon slayers back then only had their weapons and so trained their bodies to the limit. I have no doubt that if they were all alive today, then they would be able to learn the breathing techniques and become even stronger, perhaps as strong as Yoriichi. Looking over at Yuzu, I said to him, "If you want to become stronger, then train until your muscles feel like they will rip apart, and train even harder when that happens. And when you feel your muscles stop aching, you will know that you have achieved the first step." Turning around, I walked away and said, "Goodbye, Yuzu Tengen. I hope you take what I have said to heart and grow stronger." As I departed, I heard him say his goodbye and felt his presence move away. I then continued my journey. Perhaps I will visit Sakanji again. After all, it has been a while since I have seen him, and our monthly get-together is soon. As I walked away, the forest swallowed me once more, but Tenjin's word echoed behind me. Perhaps this generation of Hashira aren't all as bound by tradition as I originally thought. Chapter 2, Meeting an Old Friend and Watching His New Pupil. POV, Sakanji. It was early morning as the sun had just risen, starting to bathe the mountain in its wonderful light. I was minding my own business and waiting for Tanjiro to return when I heard my shoji door slide open, and immediately knew who it was by their scent of old sakura and steel. "You're here early," I said. "What can I say? I missed you, Sakanji," said Yoshitsune. I scoffed. "Of course you did, Yoshitsune," I said with some amusement. POV, Yoshitsune. I slipped my get-off and set them at the doorway when I entered Sakanji's home. It hadn't changed a bit. "May I have some tea?" I asked politely with a slight bow of my head. "Of course," he replied as he walked over to the kitchen area and got the teapot and cups. We both sat down in Seiza and enjoyed some nicely brewed green tea. "How have you been, old friend?" I asked him as I took a sip from the cup which held the wondrous concoction of brewed herbs. "I have been doing well. How have you been?" he asked with some curiosity as he adjusted his mask slightly to sight of his left cheek as he took a polite sip of the tea. I replied with levity, which then switched to curiosity. "I have been fine as well." "So, still training stray kids, old man?" I heard him say with a mix of pride and apprehension. "He have taken on another student who has potential." My brows lifted and my eyes widened even more. "Another one? Sakanji, you just can't help yourself, can you?" I chuckled at the end a bit at my own joke. I heard him chuckle heartily. "No, I suppose I can't." I asked with some curiosity. "So what is the kid's name?" I heard him say with some pride, "Kamato Tanjiro. That is his name." I nodded as I looked at the sleeping demon with the bamboo muzzle and asked curiously, "So who's the demon?" I saw him relax a bit and heard him say, "Kamato Nezuko, Tanjiro's younger sister. She doesn't eat humans and instead gains power through sleeping." I widened my eyes more yet again. I whistled, impressed at the girl. "Interesting. So she hasn't woken up?" I saw him shake his head. "No, she hasn't woken up yet." I nodded and said, "Well, I'm going to go look and see what your newest student is doing. Don't worry, I won't reveal myself to him." I saw him nod, and I disappeared from his house and reappeared in the mountains, watching a young kid with red burgundy hair run down the mountain while trying and failing to avoid the traps. "Almost there, you can do it, Tanjiro. Nezuko is counting on you," he yelled with determination plastered across his scuffed-up face. "He has the same earrings as Yoriichi," I thought as I noticed the infamous Tamusen Hanafuda earrings. I proceeded to cloak myself in the shadows of the mountainous forest and watched him train for the rest of the day, and when it came time to sleep, I went back to talk to Sakanji. I walked in front of the house and spoke. "Hey, Sakanji, I'm leaving now. It has truly been a pleasure catching up with you, old friend." I saw him reach up to his mask, and he took it off. "It has been a pleasure catching up with you as well. Be safe on your travels now." I smiled at him and waved as he waved back as I walked down the road leading to the bottom of the mountain, and thought to myself, "I think I'll find that upper moon one now and have a chat with him." As I continued down the mountain. Chapter 3, Samurai vs. Samurai. POV, Kakashibo Mishikatsu. I was walking down a nice smooth dirt path after I just fought another Kino, though truly, I thought with much disdain. Compared to the Kino of the last century, these ones are jokes. They are, at best, at the level of a Hinoto, and at worst the level of a canoe. Finishing my thought with even more disdain than my previous thought. While I have killed thousands of demon slayers, and over 100 Hashira, and even one Lakuta, I can tell that the demon slayers of now, while their quantity has increased by much from the previous generations, their quality has only decreased. In the last century, and before it all the way to the time I became a demon. Every single demon slayer and Hashira who were strong I buried, as to show my respect, so their deaths would not be disgraced. Now though, I cut the demon slayers' bodies apart, and let their corpses rot to be feasted upon by the wildlife. They have no skill, and do not deserve to be called demon slayers. They shame the corpse with their very existence. I thought in anger at those incompetent and weak, pathetic excuses of swordsmen. No, not even swordsmen. They shame that title too. They are just insects that walk on two legs and can talk. Now while it is true we demons hate the demon slayers, every single upper moon in history, even that brat Daki, held respect for the last century's generation, and for demons like me and Akaza along with Jayako. And Hantengu held respect for the generation of 2 centuries ago, and for me and Akaza we held a great amount of respect for the generation 3 centuries ago. And during my century 400 years ago, Muse and Sama even held respect for the demon slayers back then, mainly because of how their no killing any humans policy hadn't been made yet, and demon slayers were allowed to kill any human. That was filth. I know I did back when I was a demon slayer, and part of the first generation of Hashira. I thought in nostalgia as I remember those times, meditating with the water Hashira by the river that ran through the compound, praying with the stone Hashira at the local temple, being dragged along by the thunder Hashira to the casino houses, and gambling, and winning all the money there while they lost all their money, discussing philosophy with the flame Hashira, sparring with the wind Hashira to improve our skills. These memories clung to me like old armor. A face flashed through his mind, expressionless, yet the eyes held an emotion in them. Love. Not romantic love, no. The love that a younger brother holds for their older brother. A love that he trampled on and discarded. More memories flashes through his mind of his younger brother. From when they were kids to his younger brother's final moments. A tear escaped from my middle and true left eye as I brought up my right hand and wiped it away as I continued to reminisce about all the times we shared together in the Demon Slayer corpse. From playing Shaji to just sitting by each other and basking in the other's presence. I was brought out of my reminiscing as I heard a voice. So, you're Upper Moon 1, huh? POV, Yashitsune. After I left Sakanji's I traveled around for a week or 2 searching for Upper Moon 1. I was walking down a smooth dirt path, and I saw a demon, wearing a purple kimono, and had a katana at his waist. Found you, Mishikatsu, I thought with glee, and said, so, you're Upper Moon 1, huh? And looked at him, and saw him go for his katana, but in the blink of an eye I appeared in front of him, and had my right hand palm facing down on his katana's pommel. I saw his eyes widen, and said with some amusement, easy now, we're both samurai, let's act like it. His eyes hardened, and narrowed, and I heard him say I did not think that there were still demons left from that era. I chuckled, and said with more amusement, oh Mishikatsu. I saw him tense up, and continued, I'm from before their era. Finishing I grinned with massive glee. As his eyes widened I heard him ask, why are you here, and how do you know my human name? Michikatsu. Chuckling once again, I replied, I am here to have a duel with you, and I know your human name, because when I met that brother of yours he would not be quiet about you at all, and would praise you constantly, and say Anu has something that I wish I could do. Express his emotions more, and not look like a plant. I want to be like that, and I am jealous of him that I can't be like that, is what he told me. His eyes widened, and I heard him say in a whisper, Yoriichi was jealous of me, and saw his expression change back into a plant-like expression, and heard him say, I accept your challenge. Though shall you lose I will devour you, and shall you win I will become your student. Blinking I was surprised by what he said, but nodded nonetheless, and appeared 10 paces away from him. The air between us thickened. 2 blades, 2 centuries, 2 paths, about to collide. Then it happened. We both at the same time drew our blades, and clashed. The clash did not last long as I was physically stronger than Michikatsu, so I broke through his defense, and made a deep gash on his neck as I saw his eyes widen, and then narrow as I heard him mutter moon breathing second form, pearl flower moon gazing. I watched the 3 crescent-like blades of energy surrounded by smaller crescent blades that were spinning, and had to admit it was an impressive attack. But I easily saw the weak point in the attack, and cut through it, with one of my own sun technique first form. Sun slash. I performed an upward diagonal slash from my left, and the blade let loose a crescent wave of searing heat that roared with power, scorching the very earth. Michikatsu dodged to the side, and Mishikatsu's eyes widened as the heat slash cut through the ground, and continued on towards a small hill, which was then cleaved in 2 with a hiss. Hearing his shocked voice stammer, W what? I sighed, and decided an explanation history lesson was in order. As you probably already know, before the breathing era, there was the technique era where all the demon slayers used were sword techniques. Seeing him nod showing he understood, I continued. The sun technique was named This is the blade would heat up when holding it with a strong enough grip, and with enough power and control one could send a slash that was superheated and would burn whatever it touched. Seeing his eyes widening again in understanding, but before he could speak I sped directly past him, and sheathed my katana, and muttered Ayajutsu, draw sheath, and slowly a red line appeared on Michikatsu's neck as Michikatsu's head fell off from his body, though as I don't use a Nichiren katana, but a regular one, he did not start disintegrating. I heard him say when he bent down on one knee, and reattached his head. You did, I said calmly as I saw him stand up and approach me, and kneel in front of me in the Dajiza position. Please, teach me, he asked in a voice laced in humility. Looking at him I saw that while he has done many horrible things he still had a piece of his humanity left. I turned around and after a few steps, I spoke up, well, aren't you going to follow me? My student, his head snapped up to stare at me before I heard him chuckle as he stood up and followed me. He walked beside me. No longer Upper Moon One Kakashibo, but Tsujikuni Michikatsu, the swordsman who is seeking redemption. Though the path would be long I would traverse it with him until the end. Chapter 4, An Enlightening Conversation. POV, Yashitsune. After I had encountered and defeated Michikatsu, gaining him as my student, we walked to one of my houses. I had been alive for 751 years, so I had built, or in some cases purchased some houses in the country, and had a house in every single province of Japan, so I had a place to rest or hide from the sun. This house was built over 540 years back in the Muromachi period. Muzan was quite active back then, thus I wanted a place where I could hide out away from him. The location was perfect, as it was hidden deep in the forest, so there were no paths to the house as the forest acted like a maze, so you could only find the house if you either didn't give up searching for it, or knew how to get to the house. I looked forward and saw just up ahead, my house were here, I said to Michikatsu, who stopped to look at and take in the sight of the house and its surroundings. It was small, smaller than Urakataki's, and the brush and surrounding trees hid it away from view. We walked closer to the house and soon reached the door. I slid it open and stepped inside, and took my geta off. Welcome to my humble abode. Please make yourself at home, I said to Michikatsu as he stepped in and took his geta off, and followed me to the table as we both took a seat in the Seiza position. I looked at him and saw curiosity in his eyes, and decided to address that curiosity. You have questions, go ahead. Ask whatever you want. I'll answer what I can, I told him in a calm, serene tone of voice. POV, Michikatsu. I was curious about everything around me, and yet one of my questions has already been answered. Why couldn't Muzan encounter him after so many years? Because he hid away in almost impossible to reach locations. You have questions? Go ahead. Ask whatever you want. I'll answer what I can, I heard my new sensei say in a calm and serene tone of voice. I had many questions that ran through my mind, but I decided on a simple but important one. Who are you? I asked in puzzlement. I heard him sigh and look down for but a brief moment before looking back up and answering me. Ushua Kamaru was my original name. Later in the temple I was called Shanao, but nowadays I'm remembered as Minamoto no Yashitsune. Pleasure to make your acquaintance, Lord Tsujikuni, he said with a small smile and slight bow. My mind stopped, my heart stopped. I thought I would faint. Here sitting in front of me was one of my childhood role models, Minamoto no Yashitsune. I realized he was bowing to me, and hastily moved to bow back before speaking. It is an absolute honor to be in your presence, Lord Minamoto, I replied in a slightly shaky voice filled with awe. I heard him chuckle and say, please rise, Lord Tsujikuni. You are after all still the lord of a noble clan. I on the other hand, am not a lord. Please don't bow. Slowly raising my head I straightened myself up before replying. I may be Lord Tsujikuni, but you are the first Shogun's general, a greatly well-respected historical figure. I am not though. You are also my elder, and thus I must show respect. I finished with absolute respect in my tone of voice. His amused expression shifted, brows furrowing in sudden thought. What do you mean you aren't a historical figure? Do the titles Senryaku Shirei Kan and Tsujikuni no Yaiba not mean anything to you? He asked as my eyes widened in shock. He actually knew those titles? My titles as a human, as a samurai. I saw him frown. Don't look so surprised. Before the Sengoku era you were considered to be one of the best commanders to have ever been born, not to mention that in history's eyes the demon slayer core, and demons themselves are considered myths, legends. So you were considered to be one of the strongest if not the strongest samurai in the whole country. He finished as my breathing quickened. One of the best commanders, the strongest samurai? History actually wrote about him like that? Being too stunned to reply to him. But I heard him continue on. In fact, it was speculated that when your camp was ambushed you died too. But another historic record shows you appearing about 3 years later, and being described as a presence so powerful you would bow down on your knees. His blade was but a flash of light. He himself was like the very moon itself. This record was considered to have been a hallucination, but others argued against it. In the end, the record was considered authentic, and thus ever since, Utsujikuni Michikatsu have been considered to be the strongest samurai and swordsman Japan has ever seen, and many argue, will ever see. He finished as all my thoughts just stopped and blanked. What was I supposed to say to that? That I thought the corpse erased all of my accomplishments before joining, that I thought that compared to the great commanders of the Sengoku era, I was nothing in comparison, that I thought that since Yoriyaichi was stronger than me, he would be remembered as the strongest samurai and swordsman? But then again, I thought in realization, in the perspective of history, I was considered to be the strongest samurai and swordsman, because Yoriyaichi never appeared in the official historical records as nothing other than the Tsujikuni boy, who fled nothing more, nothing less. Finishing the thought, I reflected. I on the other hand was recognized as the clan head, and Lord Tsujikuni. I was called Senryaku Shirei-kan, and the Tsujikuni no Yaiba. I had historical accomplishments other than my hidden, and most definitely destroyed, Demon Slayer accomplishments. I finished my reflecting with a slight bitterness, not at Yoriichi, but at myself. I had so many accomplishments before becoming a Demon Slayer, but when I became one those accomplishments didn't matter, so I just abandoned them, never looking back on them. None of the others but possibly Yoriyaichi knew who I was, even though my second, and if I'm being honest, preferred title, was very obvious. They all didn't connect the dots and realize that the one they all thought of as just Michikatsu or Yoriichi's older brother was actually one of the most famous people in all of Japan at the time. I breathed in and out, and with a clear mind looked towards my sensei. I don't believe we ever properly introduced ourselves, did we? I asked him with some levity. I heard him laugh loudly. No, I guess we didn't, huh? He said with another slight laugh. Well then let me. Minamoto no Yoshitsune, the first shogun's general, he said with a slight smile, which I responded to in kind. Tsujikuni Michikatsu, the Tsujikuni no Yaiba, it is a pleasure to meet you, Minamoto-sensei. I finished and saw his eyes widen a bit before he laughed. Ha ha, nice to meet you too, Michikatsu, he said, and we both laughed, two relics of a forgotten age. And for the first time in centuries, I felt seen. We laughed for so long it felt like hours, when only mere minutes had passed.